Okay guys, we're back for part 2. If you have not watched part 1, go, let me put it right here, go watch it, okay? But basically in part 1, I'm telling you about Faith in Grad School. This is an inspired series from Faith and Familia by Adrienne and Bailon Houghton and her husband Israel Houghton, and they're talking about their journey, their IVF journey, and their journey to getting baby Ever James, and all of motherhood and all of these things and how God has worked. So I will say, I'm picking up from my lab manager position and getting this job. I will say, in saying that, right, let me tell you how God also is speaking to me. Like when I tell you he works in specific ways and he just always speaks to me in specific ways. Oh my goodness. Like another thing happened to me, which I didn't talk about. So speaking of Adrienne Bailon, she, in one of these videos, she's like, the whole time we were going through this, like I remember Maverick City's song, Wait on You, was playing. I'm gonna wait on you. I've tasted your goodness, trust you and promise. And I was like, sis, that's the same song that's speaking to me. So I knew God was speaking to me in that moment. But also, I forgot to tell you guys, I didn't go to my college graduation because it was kept on the Sabbath. And this is just like another gem that doesn't really necessarily go with the story, but I remember I was talking to a lot of people in my life, and my aunt was like the first person to bring it up, and she's like, graduation on the Sabbath, And I remember my dad told me to really ponder on Isaiah 58 verses 13 through 14, and it talks about, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thine own pleasures, nor seeking thine own different things. But basically, when you observe God's Sabbath and you refrain from doing the things that you want to do, God will bless you and cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth. But that was really my mantra. And I remember when I went to my baccalaureate ceremony, the scripture reading that they read from was Isaiah 58 verse 10. This was important because it was only a couple texts away from the one that I was focusing on. And I was like, Lord, I know you did this for me. It was like really telling me once again that I wasn't going to graduation. But yeah, that was just something that happened in my life. I thought it would be great to share. So let's pick up from being a lab manager, my job currently. I got this job, and I remember my grandma was like, it's in a different state. So my grandma was like, girl, you cannot commute. Like, I do not want you on the road that much. And so I went into looking for an apartment. What's so crazy is that, a friend of mine lives here, and he actually lives 3 blocks away from me. But I remember he was helping me look for an apartment, and I remember we found this place, and my mom, my best friend's mom, and myself, we went to go look at the apartments. And I remember in order to secure the apartment or get the apartment, we got approved, but they were like, you have to pay first month's rent, then you have to pay security deposit that is a month and a half's worth of rent. It was over $5,000 for me to get into this apartment. And I remember my mom was gonna, put up the first, monies for me because I wasn't working. I'm a college student and I didn't have any money. And I remember my sister called me, and every time God is speaking to me, he always sends somebody. It's giving like Nico, like the king of Egypt, when he went to, who was that? Was it Josiah? But when he went to him and said, like, God told me to do this thing, like, don't come out here, and he went and did foolishness anyway. This is maybe in Chronicles or Kings. So he always sends somebody who I least expect, and who knows, like, he knows that they could get under my skin to really deter me from doing something. And so this time it was my sister, and my sister was like, Mandy, I don't think that this is the best choice for you. Like, this is really expensive and it's gonna be a struggle, like mommy was telling me, and I just don't think it's gonna make sense. So I was upset. I was like, Melissa, like, how do you know anything? And da-da-da-da. I knew I was getting angry because I knew that God was telling me not to do it, and I knew that I was not gonna do it in the end. But I was upset because I was like, dang, Lord, so where do you want me to go? Since you're telling me not to go to the place where you want me to go. And I remember at that point, I was just like, okay, I need to reach out to my boss and ask him if he can help me. So I remember asking, because I asked every other person, and they were like, we don't know, right? So my boss, right? I meet with him and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna set up a meeting with you and somebody else here who works with our lab, and hopefully she can help you. And let me tell you, if you're watching this, she knows who she is. God bless your soul, because she opened up the map of the area of our job and just of the surrounding areas, and she told me everywhere where she lived previously, places that she was looking into, why she doesn't think that I should live in certain places, the atmosphere, the people, if there's a supermarket, are the people friendly, all these different things. And she told me in the end where she currently lives. And I remember when she told me where she lives, I was like, oh my goodness, I actually looked up where you lived and they said that there was nothing available. But you know, something in me, right? Something said, call this place and see if they have any availability. So I immediately call after I get off the meeting with her, and they go, oh yeah, we have a 1-bedroom, and we also have a studio. And I remember the person who was training me, who's the person who previously had my job, I was like, girl, like, I'm telling her everything. She's like, that's amazing. Like, you should go. So I go, and I immediately know that I was going to take my beautiful studio apartment. That I absolutely love her. I absolutely love her. And it's just so amazing how God works. And so, like, when I asked them like how much it's gonna be, y'all, significantly lower. It was just amazing and incredible how I was able to get this apartment, and just by the means that God has done it. And he's just so incredible. Like, he just met everything, and he has been so faithful to me throughout this year, and just like saving my money and being able to, you know, have this beautiful apartment. Yeah. So that's that in regards to just like how God has been so amazing even in that, right? So I start my job, and I remember when I was in college, like, I always worked out, guys. If you know me, if you knew me in college and you're from my college and you know me, and you know I was always in the gym every single morning. But there was a point where I started to gain a ton of weight. I was, like I said, junior year, I was like depressed. And then that summer, I was in my healing girl era, and my friends and I from my program, like, we were just eating out all the time, constantly. And I gained so much weight. And I remember my friend was like, you know, like, not to be rude, but they were like, you know, I've actually never seen you gain weight this fast. And y'all don't hate on my friend, right? Because they was just keeping it real. You know, they were keeping it real. But this whole time, like, I could not lose this weight no matter how much I ate. And I feel like also in college, like, food insecurity was real. Like, I don't eat meat, and I did not enjoy our dining hall, and it was just too expensive to keep eating out and buy groceries, and I hated our kitchen in my dorm. So all of that to say, I couldn't lose weight. But when I got here, I remember somebody at my job was like, you should try just going to the morning into the gym if you want to go. And I started, and I never looked back, and I was able to lose weight. And so, like, this is the one thing of God in this new season of my life. He restored this sense of like health and being better, being disciplined. Okay, he brought back discipline in my life. And he's just been letting me learn so many different things as I've been a lab manager. But I just want to talk about what has been happening so far. So, and like just how God has graced me with just like his love and tender mercies, like in the last like couple months. So when I first got here, you know, I thought I was going to apply to social psych programs. That's what I applied for when I was first starting like grad, when I was my senior year and I was applying to grad school the first time. And I started to realize like I'm really into developmental psychology. And I kind of knew that in a way, but I was so committed to social that like I just would not allow myself. So I started to look for developmental programs, and as I've been going through like the semester, as I've been going through the school year, as I've completed one full school year at this job, I like, especially at the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm starting to refine my interest, and I'm like I said previously, I'm interested in like early life adversity and childhood and in its pipeline to adulthood and adolescence and all these different good things. And I'm really interested in marginalized communities. So these were things that I was like, okay, like I started to find that like developmental programs were really good for me. I started to, at some point, this is kind of like this is us backtracking, but also bringing me back to like where I am now. So during the summer, when I was in Barbados, along with getting this email that, you know, I was getting a new job, I got a message from my old AP, or assistant principal from high school, and she goes, "Hey Amanda, I have a friend who is a principal and she's looking for somebody to speak at their graduation." I was like, sure. So when I get a message from this principal, I realized that it was my old like bio high school teacher. And I'm like, oh, hello, like long time no see, long time no hear, but I haven't heard from you. It's so lovely. Of course I would do this for you. And I like, you know, put in so much effort into this speech, and I just took so much pride and joy. And I remember telling my family about it, and it was just such a great experience. But while I was there, it really showed me, I was like, I would love to do stuff with children. I think education is a powerful thing. And I think that you spend so much time in school, that it should be an avenue to help children. Like this, like was me starting to embark on this new thing of like education. But like I said, when I started my job, I was still committed to social psych, and then I started to realize I like developmental psych more, and it would really meet my work or my research interests and needs more. And so I started to look into education programs. And in looking for developmental psych programs / education programs, I came across this program. And I think I should say, okay, before I even get there, when I was at church one day, you know, there's a ton of 7-day Adventist schools. And one of the schools came, and the little kids did a skit at our church. And there was this one little girl, oh my goodness, y'all, she was just so theatrical, and she remembered every line. And I was like, I love this. I would love to be a teacher for this amazing little girl, for these amazing kids, not just her, but all of them. Like their memorization, they're just like, they just have so much. And I was like, oh my goodness, these kids are gifted. Like, oh my goodness. So it just like gave me even more of a push to go towards education. And so, yeah, so I was looking for programs. I was looking for developmental psych programs. I was looking for educational programs. And I came across this one program and this one school. And in the last video, I think I failed to say this, but when I got rejected from like the first person, she was like, I think that you wouldn't be, that there would be more programs that would suit you. And this specific school does joint programs, and I think that you would love it. And so, but the program she suggested to me wasn't a program that I personally wanted to pursue. But it was like God foreshadowing like this idea of a joint program in this school. So that was incredible to me. And so I began to look into the school, and I literally like started to look through the faculty, and I found like amazing, like 4 incredible people that I would love to work with. And God's willing, I can. But I was like, okay, like this is my top school. This is my top, and it still is my top school. Okay. And I just thought it was incredible. And I just started looking at more education programs, and I started to find that many people, PIs within the education PhD realm, got their degrees in developmental psychology. So I was like, okay, these people can meet my needs. Like they can meet my needs from a psychological standpoint as well as an educational standpoint. So basically, while at my job, right, the person that I work closely with, we have very similar, or we work very closely on a project. We have very similar research interests. But she's interested in it from a neuro level. I'm interested in it from a behavioral level. So she was like, oh, like because of that, I remember I was like, girl, like, you know, are there any suggestions that you have? I don't know how we got to this conversation, but I was like, do you have any suggestions? And she told me a list of people that she was interested in and that she thinks I would be interested in. So I wrote them down. I was looking into them, and she's like, oh, one of the persons is coming here for an event. Oh my goodness, God is just so good. Like, I'm excited to tell you. She's coming for an event in May, on May 3rd. So I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna RSVP for this event. And this was like months ago. Like, this was like in February maybe. And so I was like, okay, bet. Like, I'm gonna sign up for it, and hopefully I'll be able to meet her and like maybe like hear more about her research and pitch myself to be a good candidate. And so this time comes around and I go to this thing. And I remember when I walked in the room, I was gonna go sit by myself, but one of the grad students from my lab was like, hey Mandy, sit right here. So I was like, sure. Unbeknownst to me, there's a person sitting behind me that is very crucial to this part of the story. So I sit down, and this person who was sitting behind me, she goes up to give a speech, and it was an amazing speech. I love her, Black woman. I loved her. One of the things that she said, which is oftentimes like we're looking to take like Black and brown kids and like put them in these programs that are like in affluent communities and all these different things. And what we should be doing is taking these programs and creating, if we're, practicing this mindset of equity, like let's bring these programs to these communities so they don't have to go outside of their community, and let's find ways to build towards their strengths, so that they know that they are incredible, that they know that they can do amazing things too. After this talk, after, the person that I went to this talk for finishes talking, I want to ask her a question, but as I'm about to go ask her a question, somebody runs up and like starts talking to her. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like waiting awkwardly. I don't know if you've ever done that at a conference or something like that, but I'm waiting awkwardly. And as I'm waiting, this person who gave a speech earlier gets up. So I didn't expect for her to do that. So I immediately started to mouth vomit, but I'm like, thank you so much for your speech. Like, I really enjoyed it. And so she goes, oh, thank you so much, like, for listening. She's like, can you tell me about yourself, right? Tell me what you're interested in, all these different things. So I tell her what lab I'm a part of, who I work for. I tell her my research interests, and she goes, I'm a little biased. And I'm like, oh, what is she about to say? Is she gonna say that she doesn't think education is the route for me? Maybe I should go through like community work and stuff. And she goes, I went to this school and I think you would be perfect for this program. And it was the program I was telling you guys about earlier. And I was like, it's so crazy that you say that. Because I say it's so crazy that you say that because that's my top school, and let me tell you about the people I'm interested in applying to. Long story short, I tell her, and she's like, oh my goodness, like, we're great friends. Like, let me put you in contact with this person. Oh my goodness, like, let me give you some more information. Like, there's this thing coming up and I want you to go to it, and like, here's some information. And I was like, what? Here I am thinking that I was going to, and I want to say, like, the person who spoke, it was an amazing talk, does amazing research, and I would love to be her student. But also, I really thought that I was going to this program to talk to this lady, when in all actuality, God was bringing me here so that I could talk to this lady as well. And it was so crazy because I was just like, Lord, like, I wasn't even going to sit where I was going to sit. And if I hadn't sat there, if this grad student did not tell me to sit next to her, then I would not have been sitting directly behind this individual who was then able to help me network. And I was like, that's the God that I serve. This program, now this is like my end of thing, like the end of like this video, part 1, part 2. If I just want you to know that the program that this lady came to speak to was a new program at the institution that I work at, and it hasn't been established until 2024. And I'm like, for such a time as this, right? When Esther was with Xerxes, and it says in the word, like, for such a time as this, she was, you've been placed here, right? And I'm like, for such a time as this, like, if I had come any year, if I had graduated a year earlier, if I had come to this job maybe a little later, I would not have been able to be here at this very moment where they were creating this program where I would then be able to meet this person. And if I had not come here, then I would not have deepened my understanding. If I didn't have these experiences, then I wouldn't have known that I wanted to do education and psychology. I wouldn't have known that I would meet this person. And the fact that I can stand here and connect the dots is incredible. Is absolutely incredible. And I just see him working. I really immediately told my whole family. I told like all the people like in my life who are God-fearing, like, and who like have like been mentors to me. And they're like, oh my goodness, like, Amanda, that's amazing. And I'm like, I just want you to know, like, it's not by coincidence. Like, I remember I told this to like one of my mentors now. I was like, dude, this is not coincidence. I'm like, this is God. This is God. And if I had gotten into grad school, like if we're looking back, right? If God had not restricted me from going to Bithynia, if he had not restricted me from going to Asia, if he, and these are like the symbolic references of, if he hadn't, you know, restricted me from going to these different programs, I would have, one, been in a place, maybe in a place that I didn't like, a lab that maybe I wasn't gonna be fulfilled in, maybe like, you know, because they weren't gonna meet my research interests. I wouldn't have been able to meet the people that I have now. I wouldn't have been able to deepen my research interest and get to a point where I'm at now. I wouldn't have been able to see or get like examples of personal statements that I think are really strong, because I mean, these grad students got into this place that I work. I wouldn't have been able to see those and be able to rewrite my personal statement, which yes, I'm still working on, but I'm looking back and I'm seeing all these different things, and like I might like be editing this and be like, oh man, you forgot to say this. But I once again want to emphasize to you that there's a God up above. One of the things that Pastor W. Snell says in his book Unrealistic Faith is that God, and I think he heard a pastor say this, I can't remember, but he says God has a foot in the future waiting for the present to catch up. God already knows exactly what is going to happen. And so sometimes people are telling you like, Amanda, like, if I had told myself where I would be right now at the beginning of my senior year, of college, I would not have believed myself. If I would have told myself where I would be when I was 17 years old, like graduating from high school, I wouldn't have believed myself. I have tasted and seen the goodness of God. And I'm so grateful for all that he has done for me. And I truly would not be where I am today if it was not for him. Throughout this whole journey, it's continuing, it's still going. But throughout this time, I have really been able to see a different side of God that I wasn't necessarily able to see when I was growing up, because like I was really depending on my parents and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles to have faith for me. And truly, we are in the last days, people. We are in the last days. And how shall we stand in that great day? As the hymn said, like, if you have no faith, if you have no relationship with God, oh my goodness, my aunt sent this video, and the girl in this video, she was like this. Let's be realistic, right? If we're being logical, you know, our society likes to be logical. You want to go to heaven where we're going to be praising God daily. Like, we are going to be with God 24/7. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. But you don't want to spend time with him on earth. So if you don't spend time with him on earth, like you don't know him from his word, then how do you expect to enjoy heaven? All this to say, if you've made it this far in the video, God is real. And if you are trusting God in something, do not give up on him. Do not doubt him, because he knows. There is nothing good that God will withhold from those that love him. He knows exactly what we need. He knows when it needs to happen. And like I said, if I had gotten into grad school at the time that I did, then I wouldn't have been in the proper place, or in a place that would really be able to meet my interests. Because I wouldn't even have known the things that I do now about my interests. It wouldn't have given God enough time to inspire these people at my job now to create this program where I would then meet this lady who would then help me to get to where I want to go. What? You don't know. There's always something that God is working on behind closed doors that we cannot see. But because he knows, he stops us from going to certain places because he is holding something good for us, something greater. Last thing I'm going to say, I remember watching this TikTok and the girl was talking about good versus God good. And she's like, let's say, you want a pair of glasses and God told you that, he's going to send you like a sale. I don't know. This is so random. But because you don't want to wait, you end up getting these glasses that look like the glasses that you've really been eyeing. But when you get them, they work, but they're just not the ones that you wanted. But if you had waited, but now you've spent your money, so you don't have any more money to put towards these glasses that are on sale, or when they get on sale. And so you see somebody, let's say you see somebody buy the glasses that you wanted, and you're like, oh my goodness, those are gorgeous. I wish I would have waited. In the waiting season, I remember I watched a lot of sermons. I watched Stephanie Ike and her talking about in the waiting, God is preparing, pruning, and something else. It was like the 3 P's, but God is pruning you. He is preparing you for something, because if once again, for grad school, like he's preparing me to get there. And so I hope that these 2 videos were really inspiring, really helpful, and that you don't give up. Don't give up on the race, on the faith walk. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. God knows best, and he will do what needs to be done for you. Just keep trusting in the Lord. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I ask that you like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.